Hello, everyone. Wish you a very warm welcome to our webinar on success mantras for design. My name is Manisha Mohan. I'm Dean School of Design, UPES. UPES is University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, and it is a wonderful university based out of Dehradun, which is situated near the Himalayas in a very beautiful place. I am very, very proud to welcome our guest for today. This is Professor Nina Sabnani. I don't think she needs any introduction in the design world. She is one of the most inspirational designers and animators and storytellers. She's a wonderful educator as well as a very successful designer. And also, I would love to admit, my teacher and mentor. There is a lot to learn from her because of her journey, and she has been teaching in some of the top institutes like the National Institute of Design and IDC IIT Mumbai. She's also a Fulbright scholar from Syracuse University and a national award-winning filmmaker. So there's a lot to learn from her and a lot to be inspired. And hope you're all looking forward to this webinar. So to start with, Nina, would love to know a little bit about what is a designer? Because I know there are a lot of students out here who want to become designers and would love to hear your views on what is a designer.
So, thank you, Manisha. It's such a pleasure to be on this webinar. And hello, everyone out there in the large world. It's my pleasure to be here. Looking at your question, Manisha, and I'm sure this is something we have all asked at different stages in our lives. What is a designer? What does a designer do? You know, how is a designer different from others? You know, so let me say that a designer, you could say, is a jack of all and a master of one. Not none, master of one. So you could be a communication designer, you could be a graphic designer, you could be a product designer, which is your, the specialization maybe. But you're also a jack of all your interdisciplinary. You deal with all the other aspects of other disciplines in design, in humanities, with management, with engineering. And so the role really is to be the mediator. The designer is a mediator. So the designer makes technology accessible, makes information accessible, entertaining, digestible, is also reflective, So you could say that a designer has several qualities or capabilities, and they traverse between many. So because of the kind of projects they do, they can work in any domain, because design has now become integral to all disciplines, I would say.
And which brings me to the next question. What are the roles a designer plays in the industry, in academia?
So yeah, I think at this stage, can we just, we have created a course which, if you all are interested, you could, go to it. It's on the Swayam platform. It's called Understanding Design. So it gives a bird's eye view on what is design, and literally we say ये design किस चिड़िया का नाम है. So we would like to show you that it's um, kind of explains the kind of misconceptions people have about design, and also it in a way hints at the kind of role of a designer. Shall we look at that, Manisha?
Sure, sure. That would be a pleasure.
बेटा बाप से कह रहा है चेक पर साइन कर दो, जनता मंत्री से कह रही है रिजाइन कर दो, पर यहां तो कोई भी किसी से भी कह रहा है डिजाइन कर दो. क्यों? क्योंकि दरअसल किसी को मालूम ही नहीं है कि ये डिजाइन किस चिड़िया का नाम है. मेहंदी डिजाइन कर दो, रंगोली डिजाइन कर दो, घाघरा डिजाइन कर दो, चोली डिजाइन कर दो, पर डिजाइन कोई दिखावा नहीं है. डिजाइन तो एक जादुई दुनिया है, एक तिलिस्म की तरह है. जब होता है तो अक्सर दिखता नहीं है, और जब दिखाया जाता है तो अक्सर होता नहीं है. और इस तिलिस्म डिजाइन के दो हिस्से हैं. पहला हिस्सा है यूजर, जिसे तो बस ये पता है कि उसे क्या चाहिए, पर उसे चाहिए क्या. और दूसरा हिस्सा है डिजाइनर, जोड़ीदार है जिसका इंजीनियर, मशीन है जिसकी दिलनशीन, और ये दोनों साथ में मिलकर कोड से लेकर रोड तक, ऐप से लेकर मैप्स तक सब बनाते हैं. मसलन एक राजा थे जिनकी रियासत नदी किनारे थी. अब एक बार हुआ क्या कि उनके वजीर ने उन्हें कहा कि हुजूर, अगर आप सालाना नदी में नहाने जाएं तो इस मौके पर प्रजा को मनाने के लिए एक और त्योहार मिल जाएगा. अरे राज में खुशी का माहौल बनेगा. राजा को वजीर की सलाह बहुत पसंद आई. अगले दिन दोनों किनारों पर हुजूम लग गया, जश्न मनाया जाने लगा. राजा जी आए, नदी में नहाए, हर तरफ से राजा की जय जयकार होने लगी. लेकिन राजा नदी से बाहर आए ही थे कि उन्होंने अपने पैर गंदे पाए. अब राजा नादान थे, सोचने लगे लगता है नहाते वक्त पैर धोना भूल गया. लौट कर नदी में गए, घिस घिस कर पैरों को साफ किया, फिर बाहर कदम रखा, फिर से पैरों पर धूल जमा हो गई. कई बार अंदर बाहर करने के बाद राजा के बात में ये समझ में आई कि भाई ये तो जमीन पर जो धूल है, गंदगी की वजह वो है. फौरन अपने मंत्री को तलब किया, कहा कि इसको समाधान निकालो. मंत्री के कहने पर सारी प्रजा ने झाड़ू लगाना शुरू कर दिया. राजा साहब आए, जमीन पर कदम रखा ही था, फिर से पैर मैले हो गए. दूसरे मंत्री को जिम्मेदारी दी गई. उसने जांच करके मालूम किया कि दरअसल मसला यह है कि आसपास की धूल उड़कर आ रही है और वो राजा जी के पैरों को गंदा कर रही है. राजा साहब के रास्ते के दोनों तरफ शामियाने लगवा दिए गए, पर साहब गंदगी थी कि राजा साहब के पैरों को छोड़ने का नाम ही नहीं ले रही थी. आखिरकार वजीर ने यह हल सुझाया कि पूरे गांव की जमीन को चमड़े से ढक दिया जाए. तभी गांव की एक बुजुर्ग औरत ने आकर कहा कि अगर सारी धरती को चमड़े से ढक दोगे तो पेड़ पौधे अनाज कहां उगेगा, इंसान जानवर क्या खाएगा. और फिर वो राजा जी से बोली, हुजूर आप इधर आइए. राजा जी उसके पास गए और उस औरत ने जमीन पर पड़ा चमड़े का एक टुकड़ा उठाया, राजा के पैर का नाप लेकर उसे सिला और राजा जी को पहना दिया. इस तरह हाजरीन जूतों का पहला जोड़ा वजूद में आया. तो अब आप ही सोचिए कि यूजर कौन, डिजाइनर कौन. उस छोटे से जूते से लेकर हमारी जिंदगी का हर पहलू डिजाइन किया हुआ है. और जैसा कि मंटो साहब कह गए हैं, दुनिया को समझाना नहीं चाहिए, उसे समझना चाहिए.
Awesome. That was really wonderful. So, Nina, can you tell us a little bit more about this course on understanding design? I'm sure it would be very, very valuable for some of the design aspirants here.
Yeah, because if you know, like Ankit said, you know, designer is somebody who understands the user, has empathy, you know, is an artist who can make things, who has skills, you know, and is also a communicator, you know, can communicate. And as you saw, it's not only about just making things, it's also asking whether this is what we need, you know. So the old lady, she says, you know, why do you want to cover the whole earth if you cover the whole earth? what will we grow? How will we have agriculture? How will people live? You know, which is what these are the questions that are asked by several disciplines. But the designer asks these questions also. You know, so the course that we have, understanding design, it looks at the relationship with the user. How do you identify problems? How do you identify opportunities? And then we have on how design is relating to society, it's relating to environment, to sustainability, to working in collaboration, how designers collaborate and work. It's a very collaborative process, and the design process itself. So it takes you a very basic, it's a very basic level course. So it makes sense for people who are curious about what is design, where all do you apply design. And it's something that gives you a bird's eye view, and also with very many examples, lots of design teachers, from the NID as well as other places. Srishti are the guest faculty on this course.
Wonderful, thank you. Although I've been a design educator for a long time, I would love to go through this course and get my fundamentals right. So I'm sure that all the designers, all the aspiring designers out there would really like to know what skills you look at when you evaluate designers. I mean, you've been teaching as well as evaluating so many designers and potential designers. What are the attributes you feel they should work towards?
I think first of all, I would say that you should have a passion for what you want to do. So if you want to be a designer, then you already know why you want to be a designer. Why you're passionate about it, and which aspect of design are you interested in. So that is one thing. Then in terms of, we are looking at for some kind of skills, but also looking for somebody who's like a lateral thinker, who is not only focusing only on one thing, but has a kind of a world view, has a larger, understands the larger picture, can connect the dots, is imaginative, is a risk taker, is motivated, is somebody who can deal with sudden changes, because that is something a designer has to take it in their stride, because otherwise you're literally thinking on your toes. And that I would say that one would look for somebody like that, because uh, they are the ones who will see opportunities, and they would be the ones to connect the dots.
Yeah, I think COVID is a great example of a sudden change where I think a lot of designers actually came forward and started working on ideas for the new normal. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look at the kind of different masks that people came up with, first of all, and then using, I mean, even education, design education, which came to a halt, and in all these years, even when we were developing this course on understanding design, we were told by many design fraternity and faculty that how can you teach design online? It's, and though we are not, this course is a hybrid course, so like you do projects, but you use the course as a baseline, like a course where you get the course material from this course, but you actually do some projects. So because we had this experience, but we were always not sure, lots of faculty were not sure that you can teach something that requires doing and requires critique, face-to-face critique. How are you going to teach design online? And the COVID pushed us, literally pushed us to think about how do we do it. And the way people have innovatively used the existing technologies. These technologies have been around, there's always been Skype, if not Zoom. There's always been a way in which we could connect with each other, but we did not, because we had other options. Now we have no options. So we had to literally, in my old course, I remember, we had a course on experimental animation, and we do a lot of group work. Yeah, and I was thinking, how am I going to do this group work? Because each student is sitting in another corner, of the country. They're not even in the same spot. They're all in their homes, and they all have very basic things. They just have their mobile phones, maybe a laptop, nothing more. How are they going to do this work? But Manisha, it was amazing how we kind of used the material, the things available to us. Just Google Drive. I'm telling you that G Drive has saved us like anything. And we became very, very structured. We put things, we made folders for students to put their assignments in, where everybody had the chance to look at each other's assignments. We gave assignments which involved taking each other's work and stringing it in different ways, so that you could see how your work can be seen very differently by somebody else or could be used in so many different ways. So the the way we used the drive is to, certain things we uploaded that people learned on their own, and then we had very, very interesting conversations on Zoom. So actually, now coming to think of it, it is going to affect the way we teach in the future, even. And I'm hoping and I'm sure that one day we'll be able to actually meet people and lead our lives. But I think in the new norm, this has come to stay, this kind of distance education. You suddenly had opportunities to bring in teachers and experts from all over the world, you know and they were available like that. You could speak to five people from five continents, in one space. So it has its potential. The any disaster brings in opportunities as well, I believe. So it is changing, yeah.
Absolutely. And it was lovely to hear about your journey through this last year or so. And ours has been similar. I think when we started, we never felt that design education could be made online. But there are so many ways to reach out to students and to work with them. And yes, it opens up the world, as you just said. And
And it gave us challenges to make students look at their own environment, pick up things from their environment and do something with it, rather than uh, give them things to work with, give them materials to work with. They had to really be inventive, on their own. And
completely agree.
they had to find ways of collaborating. So they came up with amazing ways in which, couple of them even created an image in which both of them are together on the same screen, but they edited it in that way. So it looked like they are in the same place. This is quite fascinating.
A lot of innovation happened.
Yes, a lot of innovation.
So, I'm sure there are some students and also some of their parents here who would love to know what the journey of a designer is really I mean, what design education is all about, because it is very different from other forms of education that we know of. I mean, I've been through design education, and of course,
Yes.
all of us have, and we know that it is different, but would love to hear from you on the journey of a student.
Of a student. So, undergrad students have a different journey to, say, the postgraduate level. But I'll try and answer, from both perspectives. So typically, you come, whether you're from bachelor's, from some other college, or you are from, 10 plus 2 school, you are used to a certain scheduled kind of life. There is a timetable, there are textbooks, there are teachers whom you speak to in a particular way. And then you come to a design school and you wonder, these guys are having too much fun. How can you say they're studying? You know, uh, your teachers are very friendly. They take you very seriously. They ask your opinion on everything. What do you think of this? How would you do this? What are your thoughts on this? What are your questions about this? I have had students come and tell me that nobody I thought. Nobody ever asked me my opinion on something, and how come we don't have textbooks? What are we supposed to be doing? What will we study? What will be the exam? And it's a completely different universe, as you know, you come from a very regimental kind of, school scenario, and then you come here and you're literally left to fend for yourself. you know you may be asked to go and find a question. What is your question? What is the design problem? Identify a problem, and then the student has to really worry about, oh god, now I have to find a problem, I have to find a story. You are being pushed to create. We are very used to doing things we're asked to do it. If somebody demonstrates something, you do it well, you perfect it. But when you're left to, to just go to the market and see, find a problem that you can resolve, from a design perspective, and things like that. So typically the first, I mean, most colleges, undergrads are like 4 years. NID used to be endless. I remember once upon a time, people graduated. It took a long time to graduate, but things are very different now. It's a 4-year program. You enter the program. Your first year is foundations. So, you really get to grips with, learning, acquiring skill sets, working with materials and stuff like that. And by the end of that year, you're actually exploring design, problems, and learn going through the design process, because design is as much a process as it is a product. So you learn, the process of arriving at a solution, and that means, engaging with other people, trying to find out what they need, what is it that they need in their mind. Sometimes people don't know what they need, but then how do you, engage them in order to understand that. So these are the things that, in the first year that a design student actually goes through. And then by the second year, they have to decide the major stream in which they want to go, so whether they want to do industrial design or they want to do communication design, because the kind of, skill sets that you need to develop are different, and each of them will require different things. So, and if you are in the master's program also, after a sort of short bit of a foundation program, you actually arrive at, a kind of specialization that you want to do, or the kind of thing that you want to engage with. So third year is when, you are actually specializing within the discipline. So more micro. So suppose you took communication design, then you decide whether you want to do, you want to make a film, so you want to do animation, you want to do video, you want to do interaction design, you want to do product design. Sorry, in not in communication design, you won't have product design, but, so whether you would do graphics or typography. So you start broad, and then you kind of decide, exactly which field you want to go in. And then there are typically in the last year, you have projects by which, you whatever you have learned, you kind of demonstrate through those projects. Manisha, have I lost you? And at the postgraduate level, you've already decided which discipline you want to get into. So you start by acquiring certain skills. So if you were, say, going to learn animation, then you learn the basics of animation, you learn the basics of script writing, all pre-production processes, then the production and the post-production. And finally, you make a film, in which you apply all the learnings that you've had. So you learn, to bring in all the things, whether you're bringing in sound and movement. So it's a mixture of, art and technology and stuff like that.
Hi, everyone. Hi, ma'am. Just one little interference that we have lost Manisha ma'am due to poor network connection. In fact, she's just joined.
Back. I was feeling lost without you, Manisha.
We living in the time of the new normal and network problems, but yes, we're back.
Yes. So I answered the question about, what happens from the first year till the fourth year, kind of, in both MDes and BDes.
In fact, there's a question in the chat box about the BDES course in IIT and what portions you cover over there.
Okay, so the BDes program in IIT does not believe in any specialization. It's a generic course in design, but typically by the third year, students are already deciding to either go more towards one discipline or the other. They do it with their projects, much like how NID used to be, Manisha, when you were a student, that you took communication design and then through your projects you kind of specialized in, like you specialized in animation. So IDC, we have that. We have even a possibility for a dual degree. So like in their fourth year, they can actually opt, and it depends, of course, on their GPA. So 10 out of 30 can actually take the dual degree possibility. So then they only have to do 1 year of masters. So they join in the second year of the master's program for their fifth year. So in 5 years, they can actually get a master's degree instead of 4 years, 4+2, they can actually do it in 5 years.
That's great. In fact, we are starting the 5-year program in UPES also, the 5-year integrated master's program.
Good,
They
because
can leave from
usually, master's level, we always seem to get students from disciplines like engineering and architecture and sciences, humanities, and so on. So they for them to catch up on acquiring their skills in design and all, it takes them a long time. And they have to do it in a very short time. Whereas undergraduate from your college who's done 4 years of design, and then just in 1 year they can do their masters, it really works well.
Absolutely. Now there's an interesting question here, and then we'll move on to the next set of questions for you. So what's the difference between graphic and communication design and animation and visual effects? So this is
One graphics and
graphics and communication design. So at UPS, we offer graphics and communication design. And of course, it was there also in NID, we had communication design.
another umbrella, I would say, under which graphic design is one part, and there is typography, and there is poster design, and I mean there could be so many things. So graphics is where you do maybe typography and symbol design, and you do poster design and publication design. And communication design is much larger. You could be doing film, you could be doing video, and you could be doing animation. It would be, because communication means you are communicating through various media, so that's
Right.
how we make that distinction over here, at least.
No, in fact, the question was really about the difference between graphics and animation.
So graphics and animation, I tell you now, a lot of things are getting mixed up, So you have graphic novels which are being made by animators, and then there are, people with graphic design doing animation. And there was a question, I think, between animation and special effects. That's what you asked, I think.
No. So at UPS, we offer graphics and communication design, and then we have animation and VFX. So it's really, very simply put, difference between graphics and animation is.
Oh yeah, so one is moving image, the other is more static and more for print media. But again, it's, I would say, static media, because print media can be also digital, and it doesn't have to be only something that is that you print on paper. I mean, it is also virtual and things like that. So I would say that one is a moving image, and it has different elements of sound and movement along with the image, whereas graphics would be mostly visual, you know. And though, again, if you say you did a graphic novel and you put it online with sound, that would still be graphics, I mean, you could call it would they are kind of merging. It's hard to tell. But if you were to look at broadly, like, so animation, if you look at in the classical sense, animation is to do with movement, it is to do with storytelling, and graphics is more to do with communication. But then you have illustration. Now illustration goes between both worlds. It is an animator can also illustrate a story in a way that only an animator can illustrate it. And then you have illustration done by graphic design people, that there is a play with words and images.
Great. Thank you so much, Nina. And I think there are a lot of interesting questions coming up over here. But before we get into the questions, would love for you to talk a little bit about your journey. How did you get into design, and what was your journey like? And I have a feeling that many of the questions will get answered with that.
Okay. Yeah, so my journey into design was of not my own choice, I must say. I was studying, I studied painting, in the Baroda Fine Arts College. And my passion, or, that's the goal in my life, was to be an artist. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to paint. But as you think something, and then, life takes you somewhere else. So I had a teacher in fact, two teachers in college, who kind of said to me at the end of my, final year of fine arts, you know, NID is starting a course in animation. Why don't you go there? Why don't you apply for that? And I said, no, animation, it's cartoons. I don't want to make cartoons. I'm an artist. So they said, no, there is a lot more to animation than just Disney. So why don't you at least fill this form? My teacher actually got me the form. And anyway, I had no plans of doing anything. So I had not really thought ahead like people think nowadays. Those days, we didn't think much. So I was just getting over with. In fact, I took a year gap after my fine arts. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted. I felt I was like a cog in the wheel. Like from age of 5 or 4, I was just studying. I didn't want to study anymore. So I took a break of a year, but that was a very good break, because that allowed me to, think about the various things I could do. And I landed up in NITs. Long and short of it, I landed up in NID. And the first 2 years, I was not really convinced this is what I wanted to do. But I was amazed at the latitude of things that a design school did, and the kind of projects that involved, faculty and students working together, working till late in the night, and very passionate about everything. And that really got me kind of interested. And then as I became, I mean, after I finished my program in animation, by which by my second year, or the third year maybe, we had a professor from the UK who kind of introduced us to the potential of animation, which is way beyond only entertainment. So design doesn't look so this an animation learned in a design school is very different to animation, you learn in a film school, for example. So a design school is more concerned about what is the relevance of what you do, and how is it making a difference to society, or what is it doing. So we became, those kind of people who were looking at animation to, look at the issues of adult literacy, and how do you communicate things like energy from the atom, to a school child without in through animation, make doing things that are making the invisible visible, and making communication so accessible, or this kind of very complex information accessible. And then so it grew on me. I would say design grew on me. It changed me. I was a very introverted person, and I hardly had three friends, and you couldn't say that to me today.
Not at all.
I am so blessed to have so many friends who have who work in so many disciplines. I was very inspired by other students who are doing textile, but I had a great affinity to the textile design students, and I think all animation students have friends in textiles for some reason, because they also work very late into the night. They also have very laborious work. They also make things frame by frame like we do. They do thread by thread, when they are weaving. So there is something, that so you learn from each other. I think I learned a lot about things, and also to make not only be concerned only about doing animation. And that's why it really pushed me into this direction of working with various communities. And as a part of NID, I also was involved with working with you know training people in from various communities that used to come to NID for design. They wanted to have some exposure to design, and they wanted to uh, learn these new things that would help them make new products and things like that. So it really pushed me into a direction which ultimately I feel I have become an artist actually. So I am doing my art in a way, but it is with a purpose, and it doesn't have to be didactic, but it is something that I it took me to do my PhD finally, working with the coward communities and things like that. I would have never got there, if I hadn't engaged with design, I would say.
So actually, your journey is even more fascinating when we see it through visuals and the wonderful work that you've done. But it's amazing. I always love to hear your story. Thank you. Uh, and now, coming to the crux of our sort of webinar, because many students seem to be asking for success mantras over here.
I
So
will tell you, I made a list because you asked me to. I given mantras, but let me say, this would be my mantras for you. Be curious, be empathetic, observe, learn something new each month, be aware of the world around you and of the developments in other disciplines, practice your skills, but also reflect on what you're doing. You need the vision to see the larger picture, but have a keen eye for details. Because God lies in details.
wonderful. I think those are amazing and they should be documented and written about somewhere for sure. And there's some questions out here which are more immediate. It's like there's some who are preparing for their NID prelims and they know that you're from NID also, so they want to know if there are any suggestions because NID the exam is around the corner.
Be yourself first, I would say be aware, uh, be aware of if you're interested in design, it should be obvious in the way what you know of design. Of At least you should know some designers, you should know their work, you should know what you want to do with design. You should have some basic skills, and uh, and you might need a good portfolio.
And there's also the UPS School of Design entrance exam coming up in April. And we also offer a BDES program. We have an interesting 1 year foundation program, and it's followed by a specialization in multiple other fields. There are 9 different specializations. They're all there on our website, which include fashion design and transportation design, product design, graphic design, animation and VFX, gaming, interiors, and now lifestyle and accessory design. So lots to choose from, both BDES and MDES.
By the way, on the Swayam platform, we have a course on game design also, if anyone is interested.
Lovely, lovely. So there's another question from the NID aspirants, because I think NID entrance exam is around the corner. So which one is better, NID or NIFT?
Depends on what you want to do, really. Because NIFT has it's to do with fashion, it's to do with, and NID has, NID also has, they don't have fashion, but they call it apparel design. So, but I mean, as an apparel designer, you could be designing, uniforms also. So it's different, I think that's what's my memory. I've left NID long time ago. So I don't know what it's like now.
And another question here says, does it make a difference if a designer is not able to get into NID or IIT?
Of course, I mean, the design is a young profession, but it's a young, academically, a young, discipline. But it's a very old profession, and they never went to design school. No potter went to design school. No embroiderer went to a design school, but they do design. They do things for people. They understood what people needed. They made beautiful things. So I wouldn't worry so much if you got into those schools.
Yeah.
If you're good, any school will help you achieve your goals.
I absolutely agree. So it's the passion from within, the desire to learn, and all those mantras that you talked about, if you
Eklavya did
just
it.
embody them.
How Eklavya did. He never got a teacher. He just put a picture of his teacher and he practiced.
Right. Now, here's another question. How does one choose the right course for themselves if they aren't sure which aspect they're good at?
Toss a coin. Just when it's dropping, you will say, I hope it's this, I hope it's this. That's what you want to do.
Totally agree. So sometimes I feel that those who are good at drawing will find themselves very comfortable in animation, illustration, or maybe transportation design, where you have to draw a lot of vehicles and practice a lot. And maybe those who are good with three-dimensional forms, materials, are pretty successful in hardcore product design. And those who have a scientific mindset, it does sort of help if you're doing product design or even transportation design. So it naturally falls into place. Sometimes you have to toss a coin, but there is also,
You have
you magically find it.
your own aptitude, what draws you, how do you communicate? Do you communicate better, by making things? Do you communicate better by saying things, by storytelling? So, yeah, I agree with Manisha. You do require certain skill sets for certain kind of disciplines. Uh, but I would say this, that if you wanted to do animation, don't worry if you can't draw very well, because animators don't draw, in the artistic, like, Rubenesque kind of, you can simplify things, you could work with materials, and you could do animation. You should have a sense of storytelling. I mean, that's something. If that's what goes for you, then you can make films, you can make animation films, you can do graphic novels, many of those things. Yeah.
Like many other design institutes, UPS School of Design offers a 1 year foundation in which you get to explore different types of courses, and it'll
Right.
naturally tell you what you're good at. And we don't, at least at UPS, we don't say you can choose a discipline when you join, but you can easily change that discipline after a year. If you joined as a game designer and hey, you started liking fashion, you can move to fashion design also. So it's not rigid at all.
Should be allowed. I think it's a good idea. Excellent idea.
And oh, there are lots of questions coming up. Okay, wow. Um, Ma'am, what is the admission in shortlisting process after USEED? Since there are limited seats, second round for interview, how is the final shortlisting done and finalization in USEED?
I don't know the nitty gritties, but I know it's the first 30 who get in to IDC.
Okay, so that's tough. The first 30. Wow.
So suppose you did, if two people did exactly the same, got the same amount of marks in the Q seat, then the other deciding factor would be their school grades and percentage and something that would, help us make that decision.
So then there's someone here at rank 21, so there are high chances that they will get into IIT Bombay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Hello, ma'am. Good evening. Can you tell me something about BFA and MFA? Is it okay to opt for MFA after I've done my fashion design diploma?
If they take you, why not?
BFA and does give you a good base. A lot of
Going from
designers.
design is easy, but going from design to MFA, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because universities are far more traditional in their way of accepting. Design schools are far more open in accepting people from different disciplines. So like typically in animation, say even in NID or even here, we would take students from architecture, we would take students from engineering, in the master's program. But an engineering college will not take a fine arts student into a master's of engineering. You know,
yeah.
that wouldn't happen. The reverse is not possible.
Here's a question on can one pursue masters in communication design after doing BCom in graduation? In
The
UPS, definitely yes, but yeah,
It's a 4-year program, and it's not a 3-year program. Then you can apply, get through seed, and yeah, fair chance.
and in UPS, if you have, a 3-year program and 1-year work experience, that also helps. So you can go from a non-design area to a master's in design. In fact, it makes it more interesting if you have a different background. You come up with more unique ideas in design sometimes. Um, a little bit about PhD in design. There's a question on PhD in design. In UPS, we do offer PhD, but would love to hear from Nina because she's one of the few PhD designers. There are not so many designers who have actually gone ahead and done a PhD in India, and would love to hear from her on this journey.
So I think it's a fast growing community. I mean, there are quite a lot of PhDs in design now. In IDC itself, some 20 people have graduated. I think 20 people have already graduated, and they're all teaching in various schools in NID as well as all the various IITs. They can't come to IIT Bombay because there's a 2-year, you can't immediately after studying in the same university, you can't be teaching there. But after 2 years, you could still apply back to IIT, to be a teacher here. So there is what is interesting is the kind of research questions, that are relevant to design, because um, doesn't design has to yet, it's evolving its methodology, because we, if we it depend on the kind of question you're asking. So like say my PhD was more, sort of moving towards design anthropology, I would say, but there have been people who have worked with it. Right now, actually, I am an examiner for a PhD thesis from Jamia, who's an animator, and he's done a practice-based PhD. So I think we need to think about practice-based PhDs in design, uh, because design is a practice-based profession. So we do need to reflect on design. We have always been doing, but we also need to reflect. So I think it is, and if a design school offers a PhD, they really should give it a different, it should be approached slightly differently, I feel. Of course, you need to articulate, of course, you need to write, in a PhD, you have to have a research question and things, but sometimes your research question can be answered through experimental work, which is more of practice-based thing. That's what I would say. We still don't have a practice-based design PhD in IIT, but there are, NID is doing it, Srishti School of Design is doing it. I think you are doing it at UPES as well.
Yes, yes, we are.
Which is a good thing.
That's a good question, definitely. Now there are lots of questions on different design schools. We know that there are different design schools in India right now. There is MIT, there's GLS, there's UPS and UID and others. So rather than answering, how each one is, I think it would be nice to know from you how one would select the right design college. It's different from the time when there was just one NID and then just one IDC. There are so many different design colleges, but what criteria should a student keep in mind when they select a design college?
I think I think it's a very conventional way. Maybe I'm saying this, but look at the graduates. Which are the people whose work you like? Where did they study? And you could have a conversation with them. What was it that they learned? I mean, different colleges will have different disciplines that are very good. So, like say in certain college, the animation department is the stellar one. In another one it could be communication design, in another it could be interaction design. So it could be, it depends on what you want to study, and also look at the alumni of that college. What are they doing, how are they placed, and how successful they are. That will give you some ideas, and also who people who are teaching, what kind of work the teachers are doing. So all of that adds to make a decision about which college to choose.
I think you're absolutely right, and a few things like the kind of placements you get, what kind of faculty there are. It's always good to check out the website and see the faculty. If the faculty come from the best of institutes and a lot of experience, it's definitely a good place to go. And also maybe international connects and
Rankings.
yeah,
There are rankings.
those.
I don't just think so much of the ranking. I think it's good to see the products. Look at the alumni, look at the faculty, look at the work the institution is doing. Look at the various departments of the institutes, which are doing what kind of work.
And now we are, I guess, running a bit out of time. There's some lovely questions, but it's difficult to answer all of them. So I'd like to sort of end with one question from my side. What do you feel is the future of design? What do you feel are the roles that designers will play in the future? And I know that parents would love to have an answer to this question too.
So, well, design has the future, that I can tell you. It's only getting better. At least people are talking about design. They're not, saying ye kya hai. That's good. That's changed a lot. And I find that now, for example, all engineering colleges want to have a course in design. All management schools want a course in design. From being, even schools are wanting to have a course in design. But I think eventually it has to become like salt in your meal. It has to become integral to all disciplines, because it is a human or centric, profession. It is dealing with, so whether, and as things conflict, they become together. I think there won't be these material based specializations like we've had so far. you know like we've had things like, we have graphic design, we have product design, we have, fashion, we have textile design. These are very material based things. I think the future is more like sustainable design, green design, things that are more holistic, where all kinds of people will be coming together and all kinds of disciplines will come together to work on problems, because we cannot make it so we don't need silos anymore. We've been living in too many silos. And I think the future, at least I feel, I wish that we get to be more holistic.
Thank you so much. That was just a wonderful answer. There is one question from the audience which I can't resist asking you. I know I said that the previous one was the last one, but this is a question only you can answer. So, as we know that you're a great filmmaker, it would be of great interest for us to know the names of your directed films, ma'am.
Names of my films.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a YouTube channel, you can see there, by my name, Nina Sabnani. And it's the films are there. There are films that I've done in animation, which are like, we make images, हम चित्र बनाते हैं, बात वही है, टाको बोले छे, which is, what are the other films I've made? Mukund and Riaz. Then there are films, there are workshops, I mean, what I'm called, collaborative works that I have done with people in Rajasthan. We made actually, yeah, Manisha, one more thing I was saying, like, the future of design is you have to be transdisciplinary. And, like the work that we did in Rajasthan 2 years ago, in the heat of the summer, we painted a wall in a school in Jhakhora. Jhakhora was a village in Rajasthan, in the Junjunu district. And they had a problem of, the painting was on rainwater harvesting, which is a very big project in Rajasthan, where we kind of worked with geographers. We people working in droughts, experts in droughts, people in experts in rainwater harvesting, the the artists, the traditional artists of Rajasthan. So this is where design played a very pivotal role, which was to bring in this very complex questions of the problems of droughts, and like no water in this region. It has been called the dark zone now, and they are not allowing people to dig wells. No more wells can be dug there, because the water table has gone down so much that it is bringing out the water, which is creating fluorosis and making people sick and things like that. All these elements had to be put in a way that became accessible to people in the village, who would stop using their pumps, and would be open to having this rainwater harvesting systems installed in their villages, installed in their homes, and to speak in the language that they understood. It was a fabulous experience. That is also there on this YouTube channel, if you're interested in. It's called Art with an Intent. So that's another film. So that was a transdisciplinary, project, which I did another one like that on air pollution in Delhi and its impact on asthmatics, young asthmatics. So again, we did, we worked with children. We asked them what they what kind of breathing issues they had, when did they have these problems, and then we asked them to draw. Then we took those drawings and we animated those with their stories. So again, it was working with people who work with communicable diseases, people who work with air pollution, who would give us these very graphic numbers, and things that the levels of pollution, which are ordinary human being, a lay person finds it very difficult to understand, even to understand what it means. How much is the pollution? I don't know. What can I do? So design that way enables a person. It empowers people, to feel like they can do something about their lives and about the environment, I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nina. I would love to go on listening to you about your amazing views and also about the work that you've done. And I know that the audience over here would also have loved it. Unfortunately, we have to bring this webinar to an end, but hope to continue this dialogue. I don't know whether I've been able to address all the questions that came up, but we can always continue this dialogue with all of you. If there are any further queries, please do keep sending them across. And you've been a great audience. Wonderful questions. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Nina. It was
Thank
marvelous.
you, Isha, and thank you, everyone. Bye.